Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Have a Cup of Tea with Doonican, and that's me, that is. And it's lovely that you've joined me here today. I know how precious time is, so I do really appreciate you spending a bit of time with me. Now, you may have joined me before, or this could be your first time. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remind myself about the aim of this podcast. What's the aim of this podcast, Cal? Well, thanks for asking. My aim is that it's nurturing, gently uplifting piece of time with a friend. I am your friend. You may not know it yet, but I am your friend, and I want this to be gently nurturing, gently helpful, gently uplifting. And while we're having our cup of tea, we're going to chat, and it's probable I will chat about music and mental health or promoting emotional well-being, because they are both great interests of mine and areas I've spent most of my life working in and exploring. So that's where I'm going to be focused. Now, you don't want a cup of tea to be a one-sided conversation, do you? I know I don't. So I want to try and make it feel more like a chat. Which is why last week I introduced my friends Leroy, or Lee, Eddie and Dan. And I've had feedback, and I think it went quite well, and I enjoyed it. So I think they'll be coming back today, so we'll look out for them, we'll listen out for them. Anyway, we better get the kettle on, hadn't we? What you having? Have you decided? Well, there's your choices there, so pick what you want, and yeah, let's have. I'm having a nice cup of tea. You can have what you want. There's a whole. Now, this podcast will probably, definitely, have some fluctuation in quality and entertainment value, and helpfulness value over the 52 weeks I plan to do it in 2026. But I am going to do my best to make it improve a little bit, not too much, a little bit every week. And I know that as I'm your friend and you're joining me in a friendly manner, you're not going to be judging me or putting me down for trying to do something positive. I know that. We're not going to judge each other. And that's the topic of today, really, that I'd like to explore. Judging, being judgmental, criticism. On episode 4, after discussing emotional well-being, fast charges, flow, stuff like that, listen to episode 4 to find out more about that. The subject of negative self-talk briefly popped up. All present, Leroy, Dan, Eddie and I, agreed it was a big topic which we would be better off exploring in a future episode. Exploring that topic in a gentle, uplifting way has required me to do a lot of contemplation. It will be a topic we will visit more than once. Back when I started training to be a mental health professional back in the 1980s, that's a long time ago, isn't it? We were told that the foundation for everything we were going to be taught and learn was the importance of approaching everything with what they called a non-judgmental approach. Unconditional positive regard was another phrase used for the people we worked with and each other. As a young man brought up in a Roman Catholic household and attending Catholic schools, I could relate to that idea. It was like, judge not, love thy neighbour as thyself, leave judging to God, all that type of thinking I thought I was familiar with. However, you could argue that within that culture, my culture, we could also learn to be self-critical, perhaps sometimes overly so. The cliche of Catholic guilt, maybe. So, for example, when I was 7, we would go have the sacrament of confession, where we would be taught how to go to a priest and confess our sins. So, we'd go and we'd say something along the lines of, "Bless me, Father, I have sinned. I've been selfish, rude, disrespectful to my parents, rude to my teachers, etc." We learned the importance of being able to identify our failings and our flaws. And as I said, I think that was about the age of 7. Now, I'm sure there are similar elements in other cultures and other religions. Let me know in the comments. I'm definitely not putting down my cultural upbringing. Very proud of it, actually. But I'm just trying to be honest with you, my friend. Now, if you weren't raised in a religious household, and especially, I would say, if you're raised in the West, I'm going to say it will still have been hard to escape learning to be judgmental. It will have been hard to escape the indoctrination of being judgy. For example, the West's media loves to nurture negative judginess in our judgy press. Here in the UK, we have tabloids like The Sun and the Daily Mail, which scream and shout headlines about our benefit-scrounging neighbours, about criminal immigrants, about sleazy politicians, immoral athletes. They also peddle and love to peddle, litter their pages with judgy, negative words and concepts like fat, ugly, stupid, and so on. And worse, I would say, they don't push the love thy neighbour as thyself idea. In fact, they're more likely to push hate thy neighbour, don't trust thy neighbour, be suspicious of thy neighbour. I could say they're more likely to push love your betters, the billionaires and the royals, but I won't get into that today. Don't want to be sidetracked. Maybe they'll do that next week. All I'm trying to say is we live in a time where being judgmental of ourselves and others is encouraged. Some people would say that is because it's good for capitalism. Again, perhaps we won't go down that road today. So today my aim is to explore all of that and how it relates to trying to ensure we don't undermine our emotional well-being, that we don't drain our happy battery through being judgmental, putting ourselves down, and all that negative self-talk malarkey. We're going to think about that and how it relates to our emotional well-being. How does that sound? Okay? And yes, as usual, in the middle somewhere, we'll have a little sing of a song, a Doonican song. This week, that song is one called Empty, and it'll relate to today's episode. Right? Better get the kettle on again. Here we go. Oh, hang on then. Look who it is. Lovely Leroy, delightful Dan, edificacious Eddie. Come in, gentlemen. Fantastic to see you. Less of the flannel, Doonican. Get the kettle on. Judging, criticising, finding flaws, mistakes, errors, faults, omissions and failings. If we're quick to do it with others, we're also likely to be quick to do it with ourselves too. That's the research shows you that, mate. Also, we may not even notice we do it. It can have become an habit. You're right, Dan. At the end of last week's episode, our Cal mentioned negative self-talk. We know, because we know him, he wanted to say about how self-criticism, negative self-judgment, and all that can undermine our emotional well-being, drain our happy battery, or hamper an activity. We advised Cal, don't get into that because it's too big a subject. And Cal, being a sensible bloke on this occasion, listened to his mates. Us. Now, let's face it, we'd staged the intervention in episode 4 because we'd noticed our Cal had slipped into a little excess criticism, a little negative self-talk, especially in episode 3. I mean, absolutely, it's good to notice what the struggles or challenges are in anything we're doing. We can use that to focus improvement. However, it's also important to balance that by noticing what's going well and build upon them strengths. What is not helpful is to say something is shit, as Dan did, because that leads to a throw it all away feeling or a smash it up and start again reaction, or worse, smash it up and don't bother, give up, don't even try. Of course, Dan wasn't serious, he was only joking our Cal to help him catch on to himself, wake up and notice what he was doing. Being judgmental, being self-critical, needs nipping in the bud early doors before it becomes a habit. Well said, big head. Yeah, well done, Eddie. So yeah, just as the Bible says, the love of money is the root of all evil, some mental health professionals and that, would say judgment is the root of all pain. So judging self-criticism, patting yourself down all the time can lead to depression, anxiety, and other psychological and emotional problems. I mean, generally speaking, as a little healthy guide, avoiding negatively judging ourselves and others is a healthy thing to do. Like it, Dan. Nice. Yeah, well, as Bob Marley said, judge not. What a fantastic song that is, by the way. So, yeah, this week we're looking at negative self-talk, and the simple message we're trying to get across today is to try not to judge others or ourselves. That it's unhealthy and unhelpful to be judgmental, self-critical and negative emotionally towards ourselves and others. Instead, we can promote our emotional well-being, charge our happy battery by trying to find a more balanced, fairer way of interpreting things, finding the positives and weakening that judge that can sneak into all of us. But how do we do it? we're going to say that there's 6 tactics, 6 strategies, methods we can use, things we can do. So part 1, we're calling Spot the Judge. Leroy, you've been quiet so far. Over to you.
Yes, thank you, Cal. Yes, I may have been quiet. I've been studying you 3. Clinically interesting. Anyway, yes, strategy 1. Spot the judge in yourself, in others. Yes, it's me, Leroy, the actor. I'm doing this one. I have an audition for a part next week. It's a Scottish gangland boss. Great part. I need to practice my accent. Okay, here we go. So, to help with the process, I'm going to do the judgmental voice in my Scottish gangland boss audition voice. Okay? Right, let's think of some examples. Let's start with external examples, judging other people, external to oneself. Okay, here we go.
Look at that fatty and their mobility scooter, smoking a fag.
I should just point out here that a fag in the UK, for any of our American cousins listening, that's a cigarette here in the UK. A fag is a cigarette, okay? So it's back to the items in question.
Look at the state of them. I bet they've got a can of special brew, White Lightning or some of the cheap booze in their bag.
Now, that's clearly very negatively judgmental. Now, research and psychological theory tells us that folk who are prone to those kind of judgmental thoughts are also very likely to be highly critical of themselves. We may not hear them say it out loud. Maybe occasionally we might hear them as they walk past a mirror, for example, saying something like,
Jesus, look at the state of you, you fat bastard.
But we're less likely to hear the internal monologue where they call themselves a loser, call themselves lazy, tell themselves they'll never do well, never amount to anything, etc., etc. Of course, those are extreme examples, but unless our self-talk is potentially helpful and encouraging, for example, I could walk past a mirror and say,
it wouldn't harm me to lose a couple of pounds, but it's been a fun Christmas, and I'll get back to eating better and exercise now. No harm giving myself a wee holiday.
By the way, I should point out that wee means small in Scotland. In England, it means to urinate, and I've no idea what it means in America. Anyway, yes, so anyway, try and spot when you're talking to yourself in a negative way, and try and spot when others are doing it too. It's a good exercise, and it helps you tune in to that negative and judgmental tone. Okay.
Fantastic. Thanks, Leroy. Beautifully put. Hope you get the audition. I really enjoyed how you put that. Right, next up we have Dan. Step 2, to avoid being judgmental, we're saying swap the judge for the investigator. Dan, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Cal. Yeah, so we're saying if we start to notice we're slipping into judgmental talk of ourselves or others, try and swap that judge frame of mind for an investigator frame of mind. You know, like a detective. You ask questions. You be curious. You wonder. Ask, what's all that about? Because we would argue that it's hard to be curious, be asking questions, and be judgmental at the same time. In fact, I would say it's almost impossible, mate. So, yeah, imagine, like, instead of acting like we know all the bloody answers, because we don't, do we? We look at the world wide-eyed, curious, fascinated. We're questioning. We're like a newborn baby. We replace criticism with wonder. What's going on? It's blooming mysterious, isn't it? We're replacing judgment with curiosity. I'm being curious. I'm questioning. I'm wondering. What's going on here? I'm not judging. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm not assuming. Because we know what that does, don't we? Assuming makes an S out of you and me. Don't be so quick to judge, as I believe that Doonican bloke says in that song, What's Coming Up.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So, yeah, this song is called Empty in brackets. Don't be so quick to judge.
I'm empty. There's nothing left inside of me. Push me to extremes, so it seems. It's nothing like my dreams, nothing like my dreams. Don't worry, I won't explain anymore. Don't believe what you think you see. Close your eyes till you know for sure. Close your eyes till you know for sure. Ooh. Don't be so quick to judge. Don't be so quick to judge. Well, I'm empty. You won't find a judge in me. Just tell me how you feel. Make it real. You're all nothing to me. Let yourself be free. Don't worry, I won't explain anymore. Don't believe what you think you hear. Listen carefully now for sure. Listen carefully, nothing more. Listen carefully, notice scar. Don't be so quick to judge.
Yeah, don't be so quick to judge. Anyway, back to business. You were saying?
Yeah, so you've done step one. You're spotting when you're being judgy, like Leroy was talking about. What you gonna do about it? I'll tell you what you're gonna do. You're gonna kick that judge out. He, she is no use to you. And instead, you're bringing in the investigator. Now, the investigator doesn't leap to conclusions. No! He, she, it asks lots of questions. They're very curious. They look at things from a number of angles. They keep an open mind. They ask lots, all sorts of things. What's the feeling going on here? What emotions are floating around? Instead of judging others, the investigator asks if there are other explanations for what people have done or have said. Kinder explanations, kinder possibilities first, and especially with the negative self-talk, self-criticism, the stuff that a judge does, we become the investigator instead. We grab our judgy self by the collar and say, "No, no, you muppet, no." Have you considered, judging yourself negatively, that you could be very understandably tired after, for example, a very few heavy weeks, a lot going on in your life maybe, and you need to give yourself a break, or at least a bit of support and encouragement. If the judge's words aren't helpful, which they won't be, get the investigator to look into the matter. You're not ignoring the underlying feelings you're experiencing. No, you're not ignoring them feelings. You're just examining them with a fairer, kinder, more reasonable eye, like a good friend would.
Right. Thanks, Dan. Also beautifully put. I have to say, gentlemen, I'm extremely grateful for your input. It means a lot to me. Thank you. Right, next we're going to look at the importance of the words we use. Eddie, I believe you're taking this one.
I am, mate. I'm calling this Mind Your Language. Mind your language. I suppose it's like picking your words really carefully, with consideration and kindness for the message you're sending yourself. So, if I were to give an example, say I went down to my caravan last weekend in Wales. Now, the facts are it rained from the time I set off to when I got there, and the whole time I was there. So, I could say something like, "It was a terrible weekend. It was blooming horrible." Which then in turn causes me to think, "Oh no, why did I go down there? Spending all that petrol money, blooming cost me a fortune, etc., etc." However, if I consider my words more carefully, I still make sure they're true, but I'm fairer to me and the experience. So, for example, I could say, "Yes, it rained the whole time. The weather was a bit of a challenge. It wasn't much fun driving down, but I listened to some great music on the way. And when I got there, I was able to stay in my lovely van, catch up on a bit of reading, watch some good films. I even had a few walks in the beautiful woods. Very refreshing. It was great to get away from the city for a change." There you go. It's the same experience, but the words used changes how I feel about it, how I remember it, and how it feels emotionally. Generally speaking, it's a good idea to avoid words that stir up emotions. So, I know Cal briefly mentioned it on a previous episode, but words like gotta, should, must, have to, can't, them are like little warning signs, little warning flags. You might be putting extra pressure on yourself with them words. I could have said, "I shouldn't have gone down that weekend." Them words, putting extra pressure on yourself. We're going to talk about that more in a future episode. So, let's have another example of judgmental self-talk. For example, I could say to myself, "Remember that night I went out and I ate and drank far too much? I was a bloody disgrace. I was a right pig." Very negative, very judgmental of myself, likely to make myself feel down, unlikely to be helpful, might make me feel hopeless. There's no help for me, the pig that I am. Alternatively, I could reflect on the same night. I could say something like, "Oh, that night I went out down the village. Probably didn't do me that much good because I had a bit too much to eat. I felt a bit uncomfortable and I struggled to sleep that night. And yeah, I could have done maybe with drinking a little bit less alcohol as well. But it was a bit of a blowout, wasn't it? And we had a laugh. And it's a reminder
I enjoy it more when I drink a bit less. So, there's an example. What happened is the same, but reflecting upon it, I'm being a bit kinder to myself. You know, like, if you're hard on yourself, like, oh, I was a fecking idiot drinking all that beer and a right pig stuff in me face, I'm gonna make myself feel shameful, aren't I, and guilty, and often then those guilt feelings might trigger us to do something else unhelpful, like, I don't know, eating a lot more, drinking a lot more, whereas the other one, I'm a bit more kind to myself. You know, I'll say, it probably wasn't the wisest thing to do after them 3-course meal to then go and have to the ice cream shop and have a bit after. But if I'm just a bit kinder, nicer to yourself, you know, like you would be kind to a mate, it can make a great difference to how you're feeling. Anyway, you get the point. Try to use neutral language rather than words that bring up strong feelings or emotions. We don't want to bring up too much feeling. We want to keep ourselves nice and calm, you know, like a good football manager. They don't fly off the handle, do they? They don't go up and down like. You know, they take success and defeat in the same easy way. Very sensible. So you try to use neutral language. Soften your language, and that can help you detach, be less judgmental. You know what I mean? So, you know, imagine if a football manager goes into a changing room at half time and says, "You lot were fecking shit. You're all a fecking waste of money. I don't know why I bother. I might as well sell the lot of you and go and buy a whole new team. I might as well get a bunch of school kids. You're all bloody useless." Now, would that be helpful? I don't think so. But sometimes we do that to ourselves. It ain't helpful. You know, in them circumstances, they'd say they've lost the dressing room. So anyway, yes, try to reduce your usage of negative words. Avoid words like bad, judgmental words. You know, good, right, wrong, fat, skinny, ugly, pretty, stupid, smart. Pick the words you would use to talk to yourself with kindness and generosity. Be a helper, a supporter, not a judge. Oof. Thanks, Eddie. Oof. Oh, that was powerful stuff. Right, okay, so I'm doing this one, and we're calling it Beating the Judge with Empathy. Now, earlier, the investigator handed us some information. He's clarified what's happened, and then you've explained it, as Eddie was just saying to yourself, using kinder, gentler, less emotive words. Now we're going to treat those feelings, those words, that experience to a bit of empathy. So the thinking is that by empathising, the same as with curiosity, we leave no room for the judge. So, for example, my mate Finbar did the advanced driving course, and he was told it's not good to get wound up by other drivers. It makes you a worse driver. It can make you a dangerous driver. So an exercise they did to avoid road rage, when someone has just cut you up, for example, instead of saying to yourself, "That effing effer, they could have killed me driving like they own the road. That car's a killing machine in their hands, and they clearly don't give a damn about anyone else. They're a bleeding psychopath." Now, if we say all that, it makes us feel angry, probably disturbs our concentration, and possibly makes us a risk of trying to cut them up back or indulging in some aggressive driving. Now, instead of going down that road, you use empathy. You tell yourself anyone can make a mistake driving. Maybe it's the first mistake they've made in 10 years. Maybe they've just had bad news. A bereavement, maybe. Maybe they've just heard a loved one is in hospital. Perhaps they've just lost their job, etc., etc. Empathy takes the wind out of what could otherwise be angry sales. Empathy leaves no space for judgment. Whereas the judge, when you say, "That dangerous driving fool nearly killed me," that self-talk can lead to road rage, a road rage episode maybe, and driving badly ourselves. So we use empathy to keep the judge at bay for ourselves and others. Yeah, does that make sense? Right, Lee, are you doing number 5 and 6?
Oh, yes, I am. Yes, I will do 5. Practice makes things better in my audition voice. Okay?
Hey, keep on keeping on. Practice these tactics. Rehearse these new ways of thinking and responding to thoughts. Develop them into new habits. Practice the good habits every day. Most say it takes 2 to 3 months to develop new habits. Think of being negative and judgmental as just a bad not a helpful habit you've got yourself in. But don't be hard on yourself. If you forget, be kind. That's the point. Just try and remember to practice and do things differently.
Great stuff, Lee. Thanks for that. What's the last point? Point 6. You're going to do that? Tell you what, Lee. Do us a little favour. I love your Scottish accent, your audition accent. It's wonderful. But I'd love to hear your normal voice just for this last point, if you don't mind. Thank you, my friend.
Too right and all, you'll be offending all our Scottish listeners, I reckon, Lee. Absolutely. People don't talk like that, Lee.
Okay then, fair enough. Maybe I need to work on that a little bit. Okay, yes, well, the last point 6, is thinking about the environment and the company we keep, really. Are they judgy? Are they judgmental? Be aware of how they may affect you. Is their judginess causing them difficulty? Help them by displaying your less judgy, more positive habits. Spot other gently nurturing folk. Gravitate towards them if you can. Negativity towards self or other people is a warning sign, a likely source of excessive drain on your happy battery, if you want to think about it that way. So avoid those who like to stick the boot in judgmentally, or, if it's hard to avoid them, try and gently show them more alternative ways of seeing the world, ourselves, themselves and so on, in a bit more, a bit more positive way. Try to surround ourselves, wherever possible, with people who are kind, empathic and understanding in their interpretation of others and themselves, and then keep doing that.
Oh, lovely. Thanks, Leroy. And thanks, Eddie and Dan. Well, we've done a lot this week. I know we said we were going to try and do a bit less. I don't think we've probably managed that, but we are trying, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends. Anyway, thanks for joining us and sticking with us. Please come back for more Have a Cup of Tea with Cal Doonican. It would be great if you would like and subscribe if you haven't already. We're told something magic happens when we go over the 1,000 subscribers, and I believe at this moment in time we're on 997. So yeah, if you would like and subscribe, that would be absolutely fantastic. Anyway, thanks, and I hope you will come back soon for another episode of Have a Cup of Tea with Cal Doonican. And next week's episode, number 6, is going to be a little different again. So, hopefully see you then. Ta-ra for now. Bye, bye.
See you soon, boy.
See you soon.